And good morning. Welcome to Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, as always, Sabir Alim. So I'm still waiting for Twitter to connect. I'm not sure what the delay is for Twitter connecting, but I'm going to go ahead and begin to move on with this show, and hopefully Twitter will catch up, and those of you who follow me on Twitter will be able to see the show. So for the last couple of shows, I've been talking about emotional abuse, and I've been talking about the signs of it, some of the things that you need to be aware of to make the determination as to whether you yourself are in an emotionally abusive relationship, right? Because many people are, but many people have just settled into the normalcies that they have created within these relationships. And there's, a variety of reasons why people don't leave these relationships. A lot of those reasons have to do with their own fears. Matter of fact, it has more to do with the effects of an emotionally abusive relationship. And as I've stated time and time again, these relationships don't improve. They become the norm. They become, the daily exercise in living with one another. That's what they become. You just try to find your way through the minefields. You tiptoe around, the other person so you don't aggravate, irritate, or frustrate that person, to keep things down, to keep arguments from happening, to keep the fights from happening. So you avoid everything. And while doing that, you become a different person. It changes you. So today, that's one of the things that I want to talk about, how being in emotionally abusive relationships changes the victim. It changes the victim. And also want to talk about, to wrap up the show, with how to begin to recover from getting out of one. You can do these same things while in it, but it's easy to do it while you're out of it, because as long as you remain in that relationship, you're going to always have these, what we call triggers. These events that take place that make you feel like um, there's just no hope. There's no way around it. There's no way out of it. It's going to always just be this way. And that's what we're going to spend our lives doing. Just going back and forth, this emotional roller coaster. And as I stated before, which I was getting ready to say a minute ago, is that there's no good end to this. There's never good end to this, right? Because if it doesn't wind up in a physically abusive confrontation, because that's what happens, right? It begins over time where a person gets frustrated and begin to put their hands on the other person. It becomes a two-way street where their normalcy is to push and to shove and to do all these things to one another. So it continues to escalate until one day somebody gets fed up. Either the abuser gets fed up because they can't control that person, because they can't keep that person, because they see that person slipping through their fingers, or the victim lashes out, acts out, and does something that can either harm that person, the abuser, or take their life. So physically abusive relationships don't just start out physically abusive. They evolve. They evolve. So today I want to focus on, the two things that I stated. I want to talk about some of the symptoms, right? Because there are symptoms, and there are short-term, there are long-term effects of being in an emotionally abusive relationship or beyond that emotionally abusive relationship. Because you're out of it doesn't mean that it's over. The relationship may have ended in terms of the daily regimen, the normalcy of that interaction. But there are three parts to leaving a relationship. Physically, right? You're no longer in that person's presence. You may see them in passing. You may work together, whatever the case is. But you physically remove yourself from that environment, either the living environment or the environment of the connection, right? Then there's the emotional aspects of the residue of that relationship. So, you start dealing with a whole lot of internal things, which we'll talk about today, which are traumatic. So when you look at trauma, you first thing you should come to mind is post-traumatic stress syndrome. A lot of times when we hear PTSD, it's only attributed to those who have been in war. But trauma is trauma, period. So you have to deal with those kind of things that come along with it. And we're going to talk about that today. Then it's also the spiritual part of it. When you enter into the relationship, we all have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So you begin to connect with that person. You begin to, even if they haven't, you begin to see that person as an intricate part of your life. You begin to include them. Sometimes without their permission, you begin to include them into your spirit. Right? Now, some shows back, I talked about sex and how sex is a matter of connecting with one another's spirit. That you're not just entering into a vagina. That is not just a penis that is entering into you. There is a spiritual connection that happens there. You're entering into that person's spirit. That person is entering your spirit. And there's something special that happens there. And that's where all the chaos comes into play. And people don't realize it. They internalize intellectually, think that it's love, that it's something else, but it's beyond all of that. There's a spirit that's connected to that. So when you stop having the sexual connection, right, then you know you have reached the end. Then you have reached the end. And it's not to say that you don't think about that person in any capacity. It just means that that was not the issue between the two of you. So that's why that's usually the last part that goes, because that wasn't the issue. That's why it's the last to go, because that's what we tend to hold on to the most. After all is said and done, that's what we have left. That's the connection. That's that thread of hope that some often hold on to, which keeps them in this relationship longer, or keeps us going back and forth with that kind of a relationship. So some of the short-term effects are feelings of confusion, right? So let's talk about confusion. When you look at the list that I provided you in the past two shows, the confusion has more to do with should I stay or should I go, or it has to do with who you think you are and who you project to be to others. Just think about that for a minute. Because people who are in these circumstances don't have any particular look. Like I told you in the very first show, you can stand in a room and look around all these wonderful faces, these smiling faces, the suits, the tees, the fitted caps, all that stuff. You can look at and you can try to come up with who is an abuser. Who in this room is an abuser? Who in this room is being victimized? You can stand there and look over and over and over again, and there is no face. And when you look in the mirror, you realize it could be you. On either side of that fence, are you an abuser or are you a victim? Think about it. And most abusers, be them emotional or physical, don't turn into abusers. That's a misconception. That's a myth. That's a myth. But these folks do find themselves, those who have been victimized and those who have been abused, find ourselves in toxic relationships. Yeah, because of the familiarity with it. Because it was once a norm for us. And no matter how short or long of a time you stay in these kind of relationships where you're being victimized or you're abusing, right? You can be in there for 3 months. But 3 months is a long time to be in a circumstance that's physically and or emotionally abusive. It's a long time. It's like an eternity. And then you come out of it. But then you try to make an adjustment in another relationship, which could very well be a healthy relationship to some degree. Could be. But when you don't take the time to look at the selection you made and the approach being the same as you did in the previous relationship, you find that cycle. You find that cycle because you're gravitating towards the same type of person over and over again because of the familiarity. There's signs that exist. They're not even red flags to us anymore. Once we become conditioned to be in those types of relationships, there aren't even red flags anymore that show us that. We look for the obvious things and we call them the red flags. But it's the green flags that we have to look at too, because anytime you have a flag that tells you to go, right, there's nothing stopping you. There's no signs in between that's saying stop, hold up, yield. Those go signs are just as dangerous. They're just as dangerous. And we don't look at that. We don't say, okay, well, why am I seeing this green flag? Why is traffic flowing like this? Right? Why is it just flowing like this? You know how you be on the highway and traffic is just flowing. It's 4, 5, 6 lanes and traffic is just going. And then all of a sudden you start seeing brake lights ahead of you. And then after about 2 or 3 miles of pumping your brakes, you get to the point of when that traffic was delayed and find out all it is that it was somebody broke down on the side of the road. and that there was a tow truck that was helping that person, but everybody wants to see because they see the flashing light. They see the flashing light. That flashing light draws attention. So everybody kind of slows their roll and they're looking over towards the incident to see what happened. And all it was, somebody broke down, the car got flattened, and they were having some service. But people don't look at that. They see the flashing light, and the flashing light draws their attention. It draws their attention to either look or draws their attention to move over, because that's the traffic law of people, especially here in Florida, right? If you see somebody pulled over, you should move over away from them just in case, especially when you see a traffic stop by a law enforcement official, because many officers have been hit by vehicles because people are driving in that lane and the officers have to get out the car, go to the other car. So, but anywho, it's the flashing light, and then and traffic loosens right back up. But here's the amazing part about that. Everybody who was looking thought that maybe something had happened, maybe somebody had gotten hurt, and they wanted to see. But once even seeing that nobody was hurt, they resumed the normalcy of their drive, and they accelerate. They hit the gas and shoot, they go off to the races again, only to find 15, 20 miles down the line, the same thing. Traffic tightens up. And now they're at a point of frustration because they just want to keep that flow going. What's the same thing that happens in these kind of relationships? There's a flow that's going. And sometimes when the flow is going, you forget about the abuse. You forget about being victimized because you're looking at that green light because you just really want it to go away. And if we can just keep this flow going, right, everything will be great. But in these kinds of relationships, it doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't. Because you always come back to the same point. You always come back to the point of the conflict and confrontation, because abusive people are still set in their ways. They won't change. They want to control the situation. And oftentimes what happens is they'll appease the circumstance, and they won't have any thrill attached to, yes, that's great that you doing that now. I'm glad to see that you involved. I'm glad, yeah, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. Right? But it's such a flat aspect to it, right? Because it's only an appeasement. It's only an appeasement. So when I'm talking about the first thing on this list is in terms of a short-term feeling of confusion, that's why it keeps happening. Because, it tears you apart. To kind of like, why are you, I'm not understanding this. And then you begin to doubt yourself because the abuser is so manipulative. Right? They're so calculated in their actions that they begin to make you think that you actually did do something wrong when you didn't do anything. That's their job. Their job is to deflect. Their job is to reject the idea that it could be them. That's their job. And that's where the confusion comes in. And then the emotional confusion we'll talk about a little later, but you start, okay, I'm gonna go along for this ride, and you let your guard back down and you get back into the flow of things only to see the same thing happen again. And the next thing you know, the heartache and the conflicts and confrontations come back, and then you withdraw, because that's another aspect of it. Another aspect of it is fear. Fear. Right? And this is where the whole withdrawal ties into it as well, because again, you're going back and forth emotionally, right? And you begin to have these feelings, these fearful feelings. Because remember, in many cases, the person who is being abused wants nothing but for the abuse to stop. And also, they don't want the person to leave them. So they keep taking the shit over and over again. They keep taking it on the chin over and over again. They keep taking the abuse over and over again because they don't want to be by themselves. Remember, because I said that there's some residue of this behavior, and that's why we find ourselves in these toxic relationships, because we get used to that. We get used to taking it on the chin. We get used to just yielding to everything. We get used to compromising even our own damn sanity just to make sure that that person doesn't leave. And you can't make sure the person doesn't leave because they're going to leave anyway, if that's what they're going to do. So you can't make the person stay with you. And that's what a lot of energy is often put into these kind of situations. They're toxic. It's toxic, man. You can't listen. Why would you want that to continue to happen? Would you continue to drink spigot water that was brown? Think about it. And so many places, right, have had these underground water lines that are so dilapidated, so decrepit, so diseased. But you continue to drink the water, right? You continue to use it. You have to. And so many cases, people are just forced to having to do it, right? But there's spring water available. There's distilled water. There's other waters that are available for drinking purpose. So you can, in fact, save yourself. But when you look at the relationship as being all you have, and that's all you hold on to, it makes you sicker. And that's where the toxicity comes in. And that's when the fear begins to kick in, because if I leave, then I won't have them. Then I have to deal with other stuff like loneliness. I don't want to deal with loneliness. So I stay. And I continue to deal with it. I'm not sure what's happening with Twitter here. It's been connecting forever. It hasn't connected. I'm not totally sure why. And I really don't want to drag it on to the Wi-Fi Connect, because if I drag it into the Wi-Fi Connect, then what'll actually happen is it may slow this one down. Let me see what happens. Bear with me, y'all. This is live. This is how this thing goes. But it's usually connected by now. I'm not really sure. All right, so you connected to that, but can I get connected on Twitter? It just keeps saying it's connecting. And it's not yet connected. So I'm not really sure what's happening with that, why it's not. Let me try it one more time, folks. Bear with me. Again, you're watching Daddy's Right Here live on YouTube, my Spirulina YouTube educational station. I'm just trying to get it to go live here. So, no. Here we go. Hey, okay. So for those of you who just tuned in on Twitter, welcome. I was having a connection issue this morning for the show, so welcome. So another part of the short-term effects of being in an abusive relationship is hopelessness, right? Because that's the next phase you move into. Once you realize that this really isn't going anywhere, you're still in it. You're still in it. But the feelings of hopelessness begin to settle in for you. And you feel like, this is the way it's going to be. And you just stay. You just stay. And because it's like it's so time consuming to deal with that stuff while you're trying to keep your own focus on your job, on school, on your children, on other matters. You try to keep focused on those kind of things. You try to keep yourself grounded by doing those things and always being busy. But in the back of your mind, you already know where this is going. And to know in the back of your mind that something is about to either end or something is about to happen. The violent aspect of the abuse that began emotionally abusive, you already know it's going to come to something. And instead of you doing something about it, you settle into it and you just wait for the moment. You just wait for the moment to pounce on that moment where this is it. If she says one more thing, if he has one more thing to say about this or one more thing to say about that, if I hear another damn thing about, why am I hanging out with my brother so frequently? If I hear one more thing about a snap, now you're already preparing. You're already preparing for an incident. You know it's coming, but won't get out. And that's what hopelessness does, because you say, okay, well, if I get out, then what happens is I'm lonely. If I stay, I got to keep going through this. But then you start looking at, okay, how frequently do I go through this? In between the time when I'm keeping myself busy, it doesn't seem as bad. But then when I'm with that person, it seems just what it is, because I feel inside the things I'm talking about right now. The confusion, the fear, the hopelessness. I feel all that stuff. Every time I'm around that person, it happens. Whether it happens consciously or unconsciously, something takes place within you when you're in one of these toxic, abusive relationships, because they're controlling relationships. They're relationships that don't allow you to be you. They don't allow you to be you. But you don't allow yourself to go beyond it because of your own fear of being lonely, because of your own feelings of hopelessness, because those things they overwhelm you. Because we allow those things to happen. We give people that kind of power over us. When we stop going places, when we stop talking about things, when we stop doing things, we give that other person power and control over us, and then we get angry with them for doing it. Sure, nobody expects to enter into a relationship and it turns into like a trip through hell. Nobody wants to enter into that. Nobody wants to feel that. Nobody wants to feel that. But at the end of the day, right, you're responsible for you. That's why I always say to people, not only do you need to love that person, right, from what you have and what you can give, but you have to learn how to love that person for what they need. Which goes back to Adam and Eve. And I'm going to always go back there. Because when God gave Adam Eve, he gave him a wife. He gave him a partner. And Eve even told Adam, when he asked her, what is your purpose? If you are not getting Eve's true purpose for you and Adam's true purpose for you as Eve, you need to get out of it, because it's not going to go anywhere. That's your reality. And it's also another show. But it's also in my film, Why Are You My Ex 2, which you can see one more time. One more time. June will be the last time you'll be able to see my film, Why Are You My Ex 2, right? On my YouTube educational station. After that, you'll have to buy it. You'll have to buy it. But what I'm saying to you is that you have to look at the whole picture of all of this, right? Short term, emotional toll that it takes. So let's talk about concentration. Now, I'm involved in a lot of different things, right? As you see, I'm an artist. My artwork back here on the wall, I do pen and ink art. I haven't done that in years. This is something that was really good for me in my recovery process from my traumatic life, right? It was a great thing for me to sit down. I mean, if you look at the work, man, you have to see it up close, but it's very detailed work that is done, and just like hairs and dots and lines and like little tiny circles that give dimension and all those things, right? Those things were important for me because it aided me in my concentration. It aided me in my concentration. It kept me focused. It kept me grounded. And that was always a place that I could go to sit down and just focus and get my mind right and just go somewhere else away from where I was. But we'll get back to those kind of things as we go along a little later. But even concentration at work, right? I'm in the field where I'm working with other people's stuff every day, whether it's the stuff of a client or whether it's the staff stuff, right? And then you got to deal with life stuff, environmental stuff, what happens, in the street, in life. You got to deal with all those things. So your concentration gets broken down. It gets diluted, right? It gets diluted by all the other things, that are going on in your relationship. So you start losing concentration. You start not putting too much emphasis and focus on that because you just can't deal with that right now. It's just too much. But we're putting all this energy into this relationship that's emotionally abusive. We put energy into how to fix it while we're pulling our positive energy around from things that make us feel good, things that we work towards, our hopes, dreams, and aspirations. We take all of our energy away from those things and commit it to this failing circumstance because it's failing, but because of our own hopelessness, because of our own need to stay within that situation, we take away from stuff that we enjoy doing. And the first thing we do is we blame the other person. So some of those abusive traits begin to come out of us because now I'm blaming you for why I don't do that anymore. Why I don't go there anymore. Why I don't hang out with my brother anymore. Why I don't, go to the golf course anymore. But I don't do that. Why I don't do that anymore. I chose to stop doing those things because I'm trying to appease this situation. I'm hoping this situation improves, and it doesn't. So I'm not doing this anymore. Now I'm angry because I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm lashing out at you. You see the pattern here? It begins to wear off. It becomes the norm of that relationship. It becomes the norm of that relationship. So now you're doing what the abuser been doing to you. You're doing the same thing because remember, the abuser doesn't want to take ownership for their stuff. The abuser is not going to take ownership for their stuff. They're going to always make you feel like it was you, even when it wasn't you, and you begin to believe it's you. You begin to believe it's you. You take ownership for their stuff. Yeah, that's what you do. And it's exactly what begins to happen. Before you know it, you're not doing anything anymore. And it has changed your entire mood. Because that's another one of those short-term emotional tolls that happen. It changes your mood. You start finding yourself frustrated and irritated about the smallest things you used to tolerate before. You don't tolerate anymore. You don't tolerate anymore. You're at work and you're performing, but you're not performing at maximum capacity. You're performing, but then, people around you in the job, you okay? Well, you usually, laughing and joking and telling jokes, or being sarcastic about something, and, you just seem a little different today. Nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. Yeah. You try to downplay it, but you're really not good. You know you're not good. Everybody around you knows you're not good, but you keep telling them, I'm good. But you're not. Because of the normalcy, right? Because you've accepted this. You've accepted it. Muscle tension. Listen, when you start feeling all of these aches and pains that you didn't feel before, what you're experiencing are the remnants of the residual effects of this circumstance that you're in. You frequent headaches, and the frequent headaches have to do with tension, right? So even if it's like you start finding you have a crook in your neck all the time, or you have a stiffness in your back or your side, you start feeling these things, and you begin to think that something is wrong, right, with you, other than what it really is. And what it really is tension. It's the stress of the circumstance you're in. That's what it is. And both, listen, here's the thing you have to understand. The abusive person experiences the same thing as the abused person. Because the abusive person has a focus on controlling the circumstance. So they're always looking for things. They're always complaining about things. They're always saying something about something. They're always questioning. They're always doing all those things I talked about in the previous two shows. They're doing that. There's a lot of energy involved in that because they have a similar fear as well. Remember? Of being alone. So they think if they can control the situation, right, it'll keep them from being hurt. They don't have to give up much. They can have their cake and eat it too, and have the bakery, because that's their goal. But they can have you too. They won't relinquish control. But at the end, like I said, the similarity is neither party wants to be alone. The fears of being alone. So when you start looking at all these things that you're experiencing, right? Because I would notice for myself, my own body, the soreness, in my legs when I'm sitting down. I'm not even exercising, right? The stiffness in my neck, right? My whole body always feeling like tensed up. Like you always feel like you always feel like that dude on steroids that's walking up. What's up, man? Yeah, you got to try this stuff. It's good. That's how you feel inside. All the time. Always wound up. That's tension. And you can't sleep because it affects your sleep. It affects your entire being. And you don't even feel it. Because it's the norm. And you think that that's what it's supposed to be. And that's when substance abuse happens. That's when substance misuse happens, right? Because you just think this is, and you want it to go away. Because when you begin to feel it, you start taking other stuff, thinking it's attributed to something else that you're doing wrong. I'm just sleeping in the wrong position. I'm just sitting in the chair wrong. Right? You start seeing all those things and that's it. Yeah, and no, that's it. And you start finding all these remedies. When the true remedy is to get out of that relationship, that toxic, abusive relationship. Because eventually you become just like that person. Eventually you become just like that person. And that's why you see these couples who stay together, who act just like that with one another. Yeah. What's that? Why did we get married? That couple, the ghetto couple, and everybody heard her coming before she even got into the room, and he was like, and that's how they were with each other. Right? And even in the end, when he took control of that relationship, he said, stop it, both of y'all. You go over there, you go over there. He wouldn't talk to this one, he wouldn't talk to that one. And she was sitting there, she loved the fact that he was taking control, right? She loved it, but she still was slick with the mouth. Right? She was still slick with the mouth. She still had all the extra stuff to say. But he got to a point where the normalcy. Yeah, he normalized that. Okay, this is how she gonna be. This is how I'm gonna deal with it. He didn't even see he changed himself. He changed himself. For him, it was taking control, but that's not who you are. If you're not a controlling person, if you don't seek to deal with a person in that way, why would you deal with a person? That's not love. Ain't nothing love about that. He had to change his whole being in order to manage that circumstance. Period. And she was good with it. Or was she? Right? Because she didn't change. She wanted him to change. She was the abusive one. She was the victimizer. He was the victim. Next time you watch the movie, look at the interaction between the two and see where that behavior was in terms of who was the abuser and who was the victim. And the lens you look through at that circumstance will determine where you are. Because if you're a woman and you watch it and you see the interaction, ain't no man gonna talk to me like that. Look at how she was talking to him. Yeah, but so what? You know, I'm a woman. I can. No. This dude was patient throughout all of this. He took all of the nonsense on the chin. He walked past all. Yeah, okay, babe, okay. He, you know what I'm saying? He kept right on moving. But then in the end, he had to say, like, stop. I'm sick of it. Remember I said that. It's just a matter of time. Right? It's just a matter of time. So if you got all these things going on with your body, you feel all these aches and pains, look at the relationship you're in. And ask yourself, could it be the toxicity of the circumstance? And I'll almost guarantee you, if you question the stability of that relationship, that's what it is. Because we shouldn't be in relationships that we're questioning. But we're always in these damn relationships that we're questioning. Why should I have to question? We're supposed to be together to love one another. We're supposed to be together to what is that record about legacy? How you going to add to me? How you going to add to me? Beautiful song, great lyrics because it makes sense. I can buy my own food. I'm totally domesticated. I wash and iron my own clothes. I cook. How you going to add to me? I got my own career. How you going to add to me? Let's get to the long-term stuff, right? So when we look at the long-term effects of these abusive relationships, and people listen, let me say something, right? It took a lot for me to say to me that I'm an enabler. And I said that during the course of one of the shows that I was doing on enabling behavior. For me to admit, this sounds like me. It's like to say I am an enabler. It's difficult. Well, it was difficult then. It's not difficult now. Because if I don't call it what it is, I can't get help. I can't help myself. If I remain in denial about the fact that I am an enabling person, right, I won't stop doing it. And I remind myself of that over and over again. So when we look at the long-term effects, anxiety is one. So, and I'm going to make note of it a little later in the show towards the end about how children are affected, right? Because one of the things that it talked about in here was bedwetting, right? And for those of you who have not heard me talk about it, like I wet the bed up until about the age of 13, 14 years old, right? And it had everything to do with the circumstance that I grew up in. And I got to go into detail because it's not necessary. But I grew up in an environment, right, that increased, right? Because I believe I already had predisposition because of a circumstance that my mother was in, right? And the circumstance that I was in while she was carrying me, right? Which is what the circumstance that she was in, which was transferred to me because I was in her. And then when I came out of her, it only got worse because of the environment that I lived in, the whole back and forth thing with my both of my parents, and then other things that happened along the way to grandmother's house, right? Pun intended, because I did live with my grandmother too for some years, and things changed when I was there. But there was living here, living there. There was other stuff that was going on. Then, substance use came into play. Then substance abuse came into play, and all those things like that. But this relationship, this toxic relationship, doesn't help any of that. But again, that's my path. But I say all that to say about there's a childhood anxiety that happens because of a toxic relationship between two other people, which only brings forth those same feelings. Remember, because I said this is long term. So now here I am again faced with the same thing. The same thing, trying to be a good boy, right? Trying to be that good boy, trying not to be any trouble, right? And just like this is listen, okay, I won't talk. I won't talk about that. Cause I just want you to stay. Right? I just want you to stay. That's all. I just want you to stay. And if you stay, I promise I won't. No, I'll just go ahead and suck it up, which gives momentum to an abuser. They get momentum from that. They take advantage of that. Oh, he ain't saying nothing. She ain't saying nothing. Right? So I'm gonna keep on with it. I'm gonna keep on doing it. Now you have reinforced that abusive behavior because you don't say anything about it. Right? But then you'll find whenever you talk to that person, whenever you see that person, whenever a thought comes across your mind about that person, you feel that surge within you. Yeah. That uncomfortable surge of energy that makes you almost jittery. Yeah. And you feel it. Your whole being changes, your mood changes. Because you already know what's coming. So you tense up. Yeah. You tense up. You tense up. You get into the mood of tiptoeing. You're not making any waves. You get into that mode. It changes your whole being, man. But then you have the anxiety that just keeps if you've never experienced anxiety in this case has to do with a thought, right? Because what you think about the circumstance, what you think about the person, and right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But it's about thought. But then if you couple that with clinical anxiety, which is something that I have, it feels like your heart is about to burst out of your chest. It's just that much energy. It's like you want to unplug yourself, literally. And it just surges in your chest, your heart, and it's a tightening in your chest, and your breathing changes, and you become to the point of having a headache. You experience all these things, and you can't enjoy nothing else in the moment because it's right there. It's got you by the throat. It's got you by the throat, man. Feel stifled. And you even feel sometimes, a surge of like tearfulness. You just want to cry. And sometimes we do. Because it's so overwhelming. You want it to go away. It's so overwhelming. You just want to break down and cry. Like, why? What is it? And then it goes right back into, maybe it's something that I can do. Just make it stop. She said that is this. He said that is that. Maybe they're right. Because I don't want to keep feeling this. I just want this to go away. It doesn't happen that way. and it only gets worse. I talked about the chronic pain. Now, when we talk about chronic pain, now we're to the point where you are getting medication to assist with the pain. And I said this in some shows back, and I want to say this to you one more time, and I want you to be clear on what it is that I'm saying. The mind is so powerful that it can manufacture, yes, it can manufacture additional, increased, elevated pain without it even being there. I want you to understand this. That's trauma. It's trauma. The mind can make you believe that you are in more pain than you are. Because you're in pain because of this relationship. But it intensifies because of the traumatic events that you've already experienced with this situation. That's where this PTSD comes from. You start reliving it over and over and over and over and over again. Not just in dreams, but in wake. You start reliving it over and over again. So the chronic pain now becomes a medical condition, because if you don't know anything about stress, let me help you understand something. Stress kills. Stress kills. It will kill you. Or it will make you feel like you just want to die. That's what stress does. I'm talking about the stress of this relationship, this abusive circumstance. It will kill you. Before it physically kills you, it will spiritually and mentally kill you. And now you deal with all these physical ailments as a result of this relationship. So you're taking medication to stop the pain. And the medication is the medication is helping with what you actually feel, because it's actual pain now. It's chronic pain now. But the solution, which we ain't going to go into right this moment, the solution is right there to stop all of it. The guilt. Yeah, talk about the guilt here, because the guilt is often not earned. It's not earned. You didn't do anything wrong. But your reaction to the circumstance or the circumstances is not who you are. But because your feelings are involved in this, you react in a way unlike that way which you would typically react. Like I was talking about in the movie. Why are you? That's my movie, Why Are You My Ex? Their movie is, Tyler Perry's, Why Did I Get Married? In that circumstance, he shut it down. But he had no problem entering into that role, because it was probably a role that he was formerly in before. That's why it was such an ease of a transition when he said, stop it. You that way, you that way. And let me tell you something. Right? Yeah. See, you change. You change. Right? Because you begin to own that stuff so often that you believe it's you. And then you feel bad when you defend yourself. You're defending yourself, and you feel bad about defending yourself. You feel bad about protecting yourself. You feel bad about what it is you're saying in defense of your own condition, because you've been made to feel like it is you. See, this is what I'm talking about. See how you acted? But it was nothing said when I wasn't doing any of that stuff. But you found so many things to say and do toward me to get me to this point. I allowed you to get me to this point, And now when I say something, now I'm the bad guy again. So you'll never listen to what I'm saying. And I said this on all the previous shows on this. You will never be the good guy in this relationship. Only time you are is when you are doing for that person, when it benefits them. And what often benefits them is that you feel guilty. Because if I can get you as the abuser to the point of feeling guilty, I'm going to keep reminding you of that over and over and over again, because it's true that I did act that way. And that's what they continue to remind you of. They don't look at what they have been doing all the while to you to get you to that point. After all, you are that person that they wanted to be with. And they push you to the other end. But they want you to be on the end that they met you at. But they keep pushing you to the other end. And so once you do it, it's always the excuse that they use. It's always the justification that they use. And you can't deny it, because, yeah, you did get pissed off. You did get frustrated. You did come out your mouth and say some harsh things. And that's all that's ever used against you. So that's the need that they have. They want to keep you there. And that's why they keep pushing you. Because remember, I told you about the list in the last show. If you do nothing, they create something. And once they create whatever it is, they put it on that list. Because you have 10 things on that list about their behavior. All the abusive person needs to do is find one. And they will run that line over and over and over again. They will keep running it. They will never let that go. And you can't help but to feel guilty about it, because you did it. And when you feel guilty about something that you've done, when you honestly have done it, regardless of the reason, right? Every time they say it, they know you feel it. Which what they're trying to do is force you to fall back off of coming at them about what they're doing. That's the manipulation of an abusive person, of a controlling person, because abusive people are controlling, because that's what they're seeking to do. They're seeking to control your life. They don't want you to go nowhere. They don't want you to wear certain things. They don't want you to be with certain people. They don't want none of that. They want you to be right there, even if they're not there with you. They want you right there, period. If they don't live with you, they want to keep their thumb on a pulse. Where you at? Where you going? How long you going to be? Who going to be there? No, I didn't know you was gone. You didn't say nothing about, well, when did you come back? Well, how long were you? That's what controlling, abusive people do. They have to control your life, even if they don't live with you. And just imagine living in that situation. It's the same thing. And then as soon as you react, because you're sick of hearing it over and over again, now they've been victimized by you. So an abusive person is not only controlling, right, but they always take the victim position. They will always take the victim position. No matter what it is you say, they will take the position of a victim. And just to appease certain circumstances, they'll say, yeah, you're right. I do that. I did do that. And they'll admit to doing or saying a thing and then turn around and blame you. Or they'll say, well, you did too. I wasn't the only one who cursed. I wasn't the only one you raised your voice too. Why did I raise my voice? It don't matter to a controlling and abusive person. It don't matter. You did it to them, and that's all they're concerned about. They're not concerned about what they do to you. They're concerned about what you do to them. That's it. Plain and simple. Insomnia. Listen, I can tell you that I go through cycles. I go through cycles of insomnia. And having been married to somebody since I was the age of 24 years old, right? I now go through cycles of insomnia. Yeah. I'll go through it for days at a time. I'll go through it intermittently. And I always know what it's attributed to. I always know what it's attributed to. The trauma of all these marriages. I know what it's attributed to. One marriage after the next, after the next, after the next. That's what it's attributed to. Right? Because you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, worrying about it, wondering about it, questioning yourself. Those feelings of guilt, right? Those undeserving feelings of remorse. What do I have to be remorseful for? Right? Remorseful for allowing myself to be in a circumstance where I'm being abused. Remorseful about defending myself, speaking up for myself. What? And it doesn't stop. It goes on and on and on and on. So I go through cycles of insomnia, man, where I don't sleep throughout the course of the night. I don't. I'll sleep for an hour, wake up. Sleep for 2 hours, wake up. All night long. And sometimes I'll deal with it like for 3 or 4 days at a time. Man, it's a terrible thing, right? We talked a bit about children, and I told you that most children don't grow up to be abusers, but they do find themselves in toxic relationships often. Yeah. Some of the things with that come along with the PTSD, angry outbursts. You're fed up now, right? You're sensitive. You're increased. There's an increased sensitivity, right, to things because you have got to the point of like, I'm just sick of this, right? So then when the stuff happens again or you see it coming, you just snap before it even comes. Oh, and that's great for the abuser because what's wrong with you? They don't look at how we got here. They don't look at the role that they've had in the situation. They don't look at what they did to cause you to feel this way about this situation that's happening right now. That is so familiar, right? And you just snap and you go all in. I don't see it. That's PTSD. That's an angry outburst, right? And it's not always at that person. It's at other people in your life, right? Because you are so traumatized by this circumstance that sometimes you just lash out at other people around you. But you know who you lash out the most? Lash out at the most? Yourself. At yourself. Negative thoughts, easily startled, right? Because you're so distracted and because you can't concentrate, right? And somebody, walks up onto you, Samir, like what? Yeah. And then, the tension just locks right in. What? Right. And he looks at you like, yo, I was just trying to get your attention. I was talking. You were somewhere else. Yeah. I've done that a number of times. Like, not snap like, what that? But, just distracted. I talked about, children and bedwetting. They're regressing, right? You have a lot of that in today's society where we keep saying what's wrong with these kids, but we're not asking ourselves what's wrong with us because we want to consider ourselves to be great parents, great caretakers, when we don't look at how our parents were raised and how our parents raised us and how we're now raising our children. And we have such an emphasis on trying not to be like your parents, but actually becoming your parents because you're putting so much energy into not being, right? So recovery, reach out for support, man. I think for me, my first point of reaching out was doing these shows. This was the first point of relief for me, because it's an outlet for me. It's a way for me to share with you, not an in-depth uh, uh, look into my life, but I'm human. I'm just like you. I need for you to understand that you're not going through this by yourself, that you're not the only one. That if you're seeking to change, to stop being an abuser, you need to go get help. If you're being victimized by an abuser, you need to go get help. And you need to know that help is available. There's a reason why you're abusive. There's a reason why you're abusive. There's a reason why you're allowing yourself to be victimized. Yeah, all in the name of love. There's a reason why. And the only person who needs to understand the reason why is you, the victim, when you're with the abuser. Right? Stop trying as a victim to understand why the abuser is abusing you, because you're still blaming yourself. The abuser is abusing you because that's what they want to do, because they don't want to address their own issues. You want to recover from this thing? You want to get out of this thing? You want to remove yourself from the thing? Stop being victimized. Stop allowing yourself to be victimized. Just stop it. It's not you, it's them. Remember, it's not me, it's you. Remember that. But I'm telling you, they're so masterful. They'll convince you that it's you. Get active. One of the things that has also worked for me was going to the gym, working out, getting on a treadmill, just going for a walk. You got to run. Just go for a walk. Put that thing on like 3.3, 3.4, and just go for a walk. A nice walk, man. Just doing this, man, for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, watching the TV, playing your music, just doing this. Yeah, physical activity. All these muscles that you I start walking on treadmill. I'll be running. Right? All these muscles that you're using while you're just walking. Look, your neck muscles, shoulder muscles, chest muscles, core, arms, right? Legs, right? Buttocks, right? You get them calves together, right? Keep you all those things being worked, man, and you're working off all of that negativity, right? But it also makes for restful sleep. I go to the gym, come back, eat, I'm out. Cold. Even if I'm on the beach, I'll go to the gym, come home, eat, and go to the beach. Stretch out in the chair, be out. Done. Relief. Free yourself. Because if you don't, that situation just lays on you. It just lingers. It just hangs on you. It just hangs on you. It's like walking through a smoke-filled house. Just walking through it. Right? All the soot just lays on you in every crevice of your body, because that's how fine it is. And you just walk through that house and you just carry it on you, right? And you don't go out there and let somebody take the hose and wash it off of you. That's what these kind of relationships do to you, man. That's how they affect you. They just lay on you. And through the course of your day, that's all it does. It lays on you. It lays on you. Right? It's all in your ears, all up in your nose hairs and stuff like that. It's all in your mouth. It then entered your body, man. Through these membranes, your eyes and all that. It just lays on you. So when I do these shows and I start talking to y'all and I go and exercise, and then I do some weight training. I'm not telling you how to do weight training. I got to get it off of me. And that's how I get it off of me. Right? I walk, I work out, I get it off me. Because if I don't, I will be the one. I will be the one in a situation I don't need to be in. I will be the one. And that person will still be the same damn way. They will be the same way. And they'll be sitting back, see, I've told you. that he was going to wind up going to jail for putting his hands. I told you. I knew it was just one. I knew it was just a matter of time before she put her hands on me. I knew. Yeah, she put her hands on me, right? Because that happens. That we don't have that conversation about men who are physically abused by women. That's another show. But and that's what people sit back and do. Yeah. So I put myself out there. I share with you that you're not alone. That's the road that I travel. Going through the same stuff, the long-term and short-term effects of these kind of relationships. Right? So it also helps sharpen your mind, right? When you go out and you go for a walk, walk in the park or something like that, and you focus on the nature. You just focus on that, you begin to lock back into your craft, what it is you do, your 9 to 5, those things that, those hopes, dreams, and aspirations. It helps you, get back in tune with those kind of things. Also, one of the things that I've talked to you about is the fact that I deal with depression. Anxiety and depression work together, right? So I think about they said 86% of those who have an anxiety diagnosis suffer with depression as well. It's about 86%. That's a high percentage. So if you deal with depression, if you deal with anxiety, you're dealing with depression, and vice versa, because they work hand in hand. That's what they do. They work hand in hand, right? And understand this, that clinical anxiety, right, is a heavy piece to deal with when you also have to deal with situational anxiety. Same way with depression. Clinical depression, right, magnified with a relationship that is depressing, is a heavy piece. That's why this stuff is important, man. You don't want to find yourself in a way that you don't need to be in because you didn't want to take care of yourself, because you wanted to continue to blame that other person for what they were doing to you. Yes, they're doing it to you. They're responsible for what it is that they're doing to you. But you don't have to take it. You can stop them from doing it to you. So reaching out and getting support is really important. Reaching out and getting support is really important, right? Exercising, keeping yourself physically active is important. Because remember, the chronic conditions that come along with this unresolved stress, right, is going to change your mood. It's going to stop you from doing other things. And this is how you get all these increased ailments. And you can find that walking up, my back feels pretty good. I've been going for this walk every day. The crook that came out of my neck, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Yeah, exercising a little bit, going to the Zumba class, on that spin class. Yeah, I'm just walking and just, got some things going on, a little bit of Tai Chi, right? All this stuff, and just, mindfulness and just kind of like just movement. See, movement alone, right, does a whole lot for your being. But when you start sitting on a bar stool, on the sofa in front of the TV, right, nothing going on, going nowhere, not answering the phone, not making phone calls, not reaching out to people, not doing anything active, you begin to break down. And you blame that person. And again, they're responsible for the behaviors towards you. And how you feel is a matter of how you feel about them. So you don't go through this kind of stuff if you didn't legitimately care and love a person. Let's get that straight. What you won't do for love. Yeah. Remember those lyrics. So get social, friends, family outings. So, start going out. Like I go out to restaurants myself, sit down. I go to the park, walk around the park, chill. I try to find some kind of activities to just go, that are happening. I just try to go and show up and just be, I may not be that interested, but I go and stay for a little bit. But you got to get out. I will get in the car and just drive, to a particular place. Just do it. I'll drive down to Miami, go have lunch. I go do some things, right? Because I got to be social. Because I'm telling you, this thing will drive you crazy, man. It will. It'll drive you crazy, man. It'll have you in a place you don't want to be. I'm telling you from experience. You don't want to be there, man. It's a terrible place to be. Nothing begins to matter, man. Nothing. It doesn't. And then that other person, that they just going on with their life. Everything is hunky-dory for them. And they tell you, no, it's not. But it is. Because they're moving on. It's you. Because remember, to the abusive person, you're the problem. You have the issue. They don't have the issue. You need to get yourself together. And when you get yourself together, then they find a way to break you down again. Because they got to control the situation. When you're happy, they find a way to take your happiness away. They find a way to complain about something. They find a way to downplay your joy. They do that. That's part of the manipulation. That's part of what they do. Or they'll find something to nitpick about. Why'd you say that? Why did I say what? Now you're thinking, oh, well, you know how you get when something is said to you like this, that, the other. Remember that list that they have? Even if it's one thing on the list, they will always go to that list. They will always remind you that. Why? Because that's your guilt. That's your guilt. They will always reach back for that. Period. Because they will not take ownership for what they have done or failed to do. They won't. Y'all need to understand that. Right? So keep doing these things. Keep going out. Call family. Go see family. Go see family. Go see a friend. Yeah. Go support a friend. Hey, I ain't seen you. Where you been? Hey, listen, I just heard you was graduating. I just, I just want to come out and just support you. I know I ain't been down. I can get that. Listen, that's on me. I own that. But I just I needed to do this. And be honest with a person. Listen, I needed to do this. I've allowed, this relationship, man, to just absorb me, to consume me, and I stopped doing things. So you're right, that I should have been spending more time. Because if I was doing that along the way, maybe I wouldn't have been in this circumstance. Maybe I wouldn't be feeling the way that I'm feeling. But I just wanted to come and just, hey, what's going on? Yeah, you got to do those things sometime, man. So just start reaching out to people, that are in your circle who you haven't been connected with. Just start reconnecting with some folks, right? Your food, you start binge eating all the wrong foods. You have a poor diet. You're always eating fast foods. You're always eating fried foods. You're eating all these things that are continuing to break down your being. Continue to break down your being. This coffee is really strong, y'all. This is a special batch. Now, listen, I only had like 3 sips off of it. And y'all see me, right? It's cold now, but like fruits and vegetables, right? I try to get in the habit now because I'm on the road a lot, traveling to different facilities. And I try to, get bags of grapes, right? It's easier for me to eat grapes. I don't have time to be at the apple core thing. I can't do bananas, so I try to get me grapes, things that I can, grab and eat. So I eat that. I try to get I like jerky. Beef jerky is good, it's a good source of protein. So that keeps me away from some of these so-called protein bars that have more sugar than protein. So I keep, some jerky, beef jerky. Hard to find turkey jerky. But I do the beef jerky. I try to drink more Gatorade or some other, or vitamin water, something like that, because one of the things that, my doctor wants me to do is to have more salt in my diet, because I don't have enough salt in my diet. My pressure drops, just like bam. So I even actually invested based on what the cardiologist recommended for me to get some circulation socks, right? You exercise in them, or I'm on my feet a lot, like the pressure, your blood is like, poof. That's why when you get injured or something like that, people tell you to lay down and elevate your feet above your heart. Yeah, Elevate your feet above your heart. All your blood is pushed. It's going down, and it's got to come all the way up. So, you know, because my legs are like baseball bats. You know, it's like my whole BFI and BMI is just crazy, right? I'm getting a little fluffier now, but, you know, so I got a lot of pressure down there in my calves and in my shins and in my feet because I'm on them all the time. So these circulation socks, which are really good for working out, they get your blood flowing. They're structured whereas they press on certain areas of the leg, and you can just I use that because, you know, cardiologist recommended it. I drink the Gator. I do different things. Sometimes I go on a patty pie binge. You know, I'll get the sweet potato pies. I get the family size and just quarter it, and that's a slice for me, as opposed to the little ones. They just make me mad. That's like a half. Or I'll get the peach and apple cobblers, and I'll sit in in the bed, big tablespoon, and and a few bottles of water. And so I've been doing pretty good on that. So I binge on that. But I say all that to say that, you know, you start eating differently when you're stressed. Sometimes you just stop eating altogether. And when you do get hungry, you're always grabbing the wrong stuff. So you take a look at your diet. Rest. Even though, like I told you, I deal with the insomnia, right? I don't turn the TV on, right? Which is on this list, but I don't turn the TV on as often. Sometimes when my mind is going, right, I will. Most times, 98% of the time, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I won't turn the TV on. I try not to look at the phone to see what time it is, because then that starts running my brain. My brain's looking at, okay, it's 2:30, you got to get up at 5. What time is it now? Well, it's like a minute later than when you looked at it a minute ago. So I try not to do that. So I'll just wait for the alarm. That's why I have an alarm clock. So I don't need to anticipate when, because then I can't sleep because I'm focusing on it's getting ready to go off. So I try not to turn on any electronic devices. Right, I try not to get up and even walk downstairs and get some water. And, you know, if I'm thirsty, most of the times I have water inside the bed anyway. But I try not to get up. I'm regular, so if I'm woke, I'll get up and I'll go because I'm regular. You know what I mean? Regular. So those kind of things, you know, that I've been doing. And people laugh and talk about me, but I try to keep regularity in my sleeping habits. So I'll come home from work, right? And if I feel like I want to sit down to go to sleep, I'll go to sleep. I'll sit right there in the chair, take me a flash nap, get back up, and then I'm upstairs in the bed my regular time. They say I was asleep. But I'm trying to be in the bed 8:30, settling all the way down so I can get some restful sleep. But if you go to bed the same time and wake up the same time every morning, then your body has a rhythm. And the stress on your body when you don't have those regular sleep hours is not as heavy. So like I was up to 3 o'clock this morning, and I'd get up and do the show too. But I can recover. But I'm having regular sleeping patterns in my life. You know, when we go into college, we can break night. And when we're young, we can break night for days at a time. And, you know, when you get older, you know, it's like, all right? So, you know, regular sleeping pattern. Go to bed, same time. I even have it on my iPad. So on my iPad, I have this, the setting whereas I don't want to still be awoke beyond 10 o'clock. So 9:30, it's like an alarm that goes off on my iPad that tells me it's close to that time. So I shut everything down. I wrap everything up. So that way I can close my eyes and prepare for the restful sleep. Because one of the things that is also on this list is that at least an hour before it's time for you to go to sleep, turn off all electronic devices. Now, what I do use are soundscapes. I love the sound of the ocean. I can open my window and I can hear the wildlife outside, but I love the sound of water, whether it's a creek, a river, waterfall, ocean. I have that. And I have it at a sound level, whereas if I wake up in the middle of the night, it's not interruptive. Because sometimes it sounds real good to hear the thundering and lightning, and it's just like you're in it. It feels real good. But to wake up 2 o'clock in the morning when your spirit ain't with you, that's a whole nother discussion. And it's just your human self there, right? It sounds amplified. Like if I wake up in the middle of the night and a TV is on, it's amplified. It irritates the hell out of me. That's why I always try to make sure I turn it off. And I keep the remote right there. I feel myself getting sleepy. I just grab it, just turn it off. Sometimes I don't even have to be getting sleepy. Sometimes I just turn it off because it's getting on my damn nerves, right? But an hour before you go to sleep, turn all that stuff off. Unless, like I said, some kind of meditative or aromatherapy kind of thing that you got going on, right? Because you want to just get that light out of your brain. Get it out of your brain, because that light from the television or from that computer screen stays within your brain for a while. So turn all that stuff off. Another thing that it talks about, and like you have on a lot of your electronic devices have lights on, those little ready lights. They suggested blackening them, like taking a Sharpie or something and blackening them, only to where you can see just enough, light that you know that it's on. But blackening those things or putting a piece of tape over top of them, because you don't need to know that it's on. When you go turn it on, it comes off. If it don't, you know something is wrong. But all those lights that you have, like I have night lights, and I'm good with them because they're something different. But they suggest not even having night lights if you don't have to. But if you have to, put them in places where they're not up and they're like not eye level when you're laying down. Also, it's a matter of, I used to put those shields on, the light shields, because the darker the room, the more restful the sleep. And then if you want to sleep in a little longer, just because it gets daylight, that's not necessarily time for you to get up. It's just daylight. But the daylight comes, daylight coming, I want to go. Anyway, so when it gets light, you get up. So if you put the shades on, because I used to sleep in them, right? And a lot of people will just say, well, dudes don't wear that. Where is that written? That's a whole nother show I'm gonna do. This whole dudes don't do this, right? So you put them on, and I used to put that on there, and like in the middle of the afternoon when I wanted to just take a nap, or I just like put them on and just blacks out everything. So one of the other suggestions is that you use blackout curtains. Make your room totally dark, totally black when you want to get good, restful sleep. Good, restful sleep. So when you want to take them afternoon cat naps, flash naps, blacken out the whole room and see the difference in that sleep. Put on a pair of those shades and just black out everything and see the value that you begin to have for sleep. Yeah. Soothing music, right? Listen to different genres of music, and you'll see what it does to your spirit, right? You listen to some M, some Snoop, some Dre, you slide down in the seat, right? It's a whole different flow. You listening to some OJs and some Isley Brothers, some Marvin Gaye. It's another mood. You put on some jazz, right? It's a whole nother mood, right? So you need to find some soothing music. Soothing music. So you need to be like, just have your ear tuned to your spirit and just play different genres of music when you're in your car. So, okay, that kind of does it for me. Yeah. So you got to find that. I talked about aromatherapy, deep breathing, learning some deep breathing techniques to just emptying your diaphragm, breathing all the way until you can't You can't take any more air. And then blow it out. Slowly blowing it out till your diaphragm is empty. But think of a color while you're doing it. You're breathing in, right? What's my favorite color is blue. So as I'm breathing in, I got my eyes closed and I'm imagining blue air filling up my lungs. Breathing in through my nose, breathing in through my nose and just seeing the color blue. And it's like blue just fills up my spirit. And then I let it out, keeping my eyes closed and blowing out through the mouth, through your lips, pursed lips. And blowing it out until your diaphragm is totally empty. Totally empty. And doing that a few times. Just doing that a few times. Yeah. And you'll feel it. Yoga. I've been saying I want to do yoga. I'm going to get me a mat. Because yoga is not, it helps every aspect of the being. The mind, the spirit, the physical body, the internal organs. It's so helpful. One day I'm going to get me a mat. You ain't going to be seeing me in no yoga pants. Right? If I got some on, trust me, it's going to be some shorts over top because I just ain't that vain dude to walk around like that, and have, no. I'm going to have some shorts on. Tai Chi. I talked about Tai Chi. I know when I was living in Philly, you drive down Chinatown, like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you see the Asian community, couples be out there, they be like, and then most of them are older, you see them doing all these things, and you see they're older folks. But again, sharpening the mind, keeping the mind right. It's a lot of things that you can do. Right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about you. It's not about the other person, right? Listen, thank y'all for tuning in. Again, you can be doing anything on a Sunday morning. They're listening to my mouth. Thank you for joining me on Twitter. And sorry about the delay, Twitter. Thank you for joining me on Daddy's right here, live on my Spirulina YouTube educational station. Listen, next week, the 25th, I think I put the time down for 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. I'll send out another note, right? My first stand-up, titled, Just Stand Up. You'll be able to see it live only right here on Daddy's right here. Spirulina YouTube educational station. Only place you're going to see it. Only place you're going to see it. My first stand-up. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be crying. Hopefully, you're going to be looking at yourself differently. You're going to be looking at your circumstance differently. That's the plan. Just stand up. That's what it's called. Look for the post. Look for it because it's coming all week long. I'm going to be sending out that blast. It will be shown live. I got you a Saturday night package deal, right? So you can get your popcorn, get your adult beverage, bring your family and friends over, and join me for a live stand-up. Yep, that be me. Y'all have a great day. Peace.